Now that we know how to add rationals, we can talk about subtracting them. And this is going to be very, very similar to addition. Once we have our common denominator, we're just going to subtract the numerators rather than add them. So let's do examples of this. For my first example, I have 2x over x squared minus 1 minus 2 over x squared plus 5x plus 4. And our first step is going to be to factor the denominators. X squared minus 1 factors into x plus 1, x minus 1. And then x squared plus 5x plus 4, we need two numbers that multiply to be 4 and add to be 5. And we can get this with 1 and 4. From there, we can find the LCD. The first fraction has an x plus 1 and an x minus 1. The second fraction has an x plus 4 and an x plus 1, which we already wrote down. Rewriting, my first fraction, we already know has an x plus 1 and an x minus 1 in the denominator, but we're missing the x plus 4. So we'll include that on both the top and the bottom. Minus, the second fraction has a 2 on the top. It already has the x plus 4 and the x plus 1, but it's missing the x minus 1. So we'll include an x minus 1 on the top and the bottom. I'm now going to rewrite this. Since they have a common denominator, I can take the top of the first one minus the top of the second one. So 2x times x plus 4 minus 2 times x minus 1 all over my common denominator, which was x plus 4, x plus 1, x minus 1. Scrolling down a little bit, I can start distributing out the numerator. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. I then have minus 2 times x, and negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, all over x plus 4, x plus 1, x minus 1. Finally, I can combine things. 8x minus 2x is 6x. So I have 2x squared plus 6x plus 2, all over x plus 4, x plus 1, x minus 1. My next problem, x plus 2 over x minus 7 minus x squared plus 4x plus 13 over x squared minus 4x minus 21. Our first step is to factor the denominators. The first one doesn't need to be factored, it's already factored. This top will be x squared plus 4x plus 13. The denominator, I need two numbers that multiply to be minus 21 and add to be minus 4. This will be minus 7 and positive 3. My least common denominator, the bottom of the first fraction is x minus 7. The second one has an x minus 7, which I already wrote down, and an x plus 3. I can then rewrite. My first fraction already has an x minus 7 on the bottom, so I need to include the x plus 3. If I include it on the bottom, I need to include it on the top. The second fraction has already included both parts of the least common denominator, both x minus 7 and x plus 3. So I don't need to change it at all. I'm now going to start working on combining the numerators. I have x plus 2 times x plus 3 minus x squared plus 4x plus 13 all over x minus 7, x plus 3. Distributing out that numerator, I have x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6. We can then distribute the negative sign to get minus x squared minus 4x minus 13 all over x minus 7x plus 3. Simplifying, x squared minus x squared is 0. 3x plus 2x is 5x, minus 4x is x. And then 6 minus 13 is 7. So we have x minus 7 over x minus 7x plus 3. And these can cancel, which leaves me with 1 over x plus 3. For my last example on subtraction, I'm going to do a double subtraction. 4x over x plus 1, x minus 1, minus 2 over x, minus 2 over x minus 1. The first fraction has an x plus 1 and an x minus 1 on the bottom. So we write those down for my least common denominator. The second one has an x, so we'll include that. The third one has an x minus 1, which we already have. My first fraction has the x plus 1, x minus 1 on the denominator. So I need to include an x on both the top and the bottom. The second fraction has the x but nothing else. So I need to include the x plus 1, x minus 1 on both the top and the bottom. And then finally, my last fraction has the x minus 1, and so we'll need to include the x plus 1 and the x on both the top and the bottom. We can now look at combining the numerators since our denominators are the same. I have 4x squared minus 2 times. I'm going to go ahead and distribute out these parentheses to get x squared minus 1. Minus 2x times x plus 1. All over my common denominator. X plus 1, x minus 1. From there, we can go ahead and continue multiplying out this numerator. We have 4x squared. I have negative 2 times x squared to get minus 2x squared. Minus 2 times minus 1 is plus 2. Minus 2x times x would be minus 2x squared. And minus 2x times 1 is minus 2x. All over my common denominator, x times x plus 1, x minus 1. My x squared terms cancel, and I end up with a minus 2x plus 2 over x times x plus 1, x minus 1. We might notice that this numerator, they have a 2 in common, and I'm actually going to factor out a negative 2 on the numerator. That leaves me with an x minus 1 over my denominator, x plus 1, x minus 1. And now I can see my x minus 1s cancel. My final answer would be negative 2 over x times x plus 1.